Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very special guest. He's my best friend and movie critic and public intellectual, Mr. Ajay Shibu. Let's let's Mr. Ajay Shibu introduce himself and the topic for today.
Okay, hello guys. I like your introduction by the way. you
I
you
know.
made it a little bit corny, but still I'll approve of it because I look good anyway. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So
So tell the audience something about the topic we've chosen for today.
yeah. So I was actually very much glad to hear that you are actually trying to include me into your video because I love doing this kind of stuff anyway, but I haven't tried it. And since he actually brought up things like quiz and stuff, but still you wanted to give space for me to talk, so in the end we ended up deciding on doing a movie review, right?
Yes.
Uh, yeah, so I thought why not choose a movie that's pretty good, okay?
Of course.
And
Of course.
it's kind of a movie that I watched from when I started being interested in movies. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I only
the
watched
movie's
it
name is
recently on Netflix because
right. Yeah,
I was looking for very pretentious kind of
of
movies.
course. Yeah,
I wanted to get into that.
yeah. And this is
It
a
is
great movie.
pretentious. It is kind of a good movie, but it's still tolerable. It's you can watch and enjoy it. It's not like some movies which kind of go over your head. It's quite understandable.
Yeah, because this is it progresses like a normal action movie, right? You
Yeah.
have a villain. You have a. Oh, by the way, I think we should actually tell them the movie right away. Otherwise, they'll be confused
People will
for.
get confused. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the movie is actually called No Country for Old Men. Okay,
Yeah.
it's directed and written for the screen by Coen Brothers, and they're pretty good at making movies anyway. So it was actually released in 2007, and
Yeah.
this was quite a revolutionary movie for that time, and because I think it actually bagged 4 Oscar wins, I think.
Yeah, I only remember this movie because it was at the Oscars at the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. By the way, this was in 2007. So how old were we? We must have been in like eighth or ninth, right?
What? How old am I? I was like 15, I think, at
Oh,
that
yeah,
time.
yeah. So I guess that's the time. But at that time, I didn't have any much interest in films. I only started watching movies when I was like 10. After 10, maybe. After 10 standard, not the age anyway.
Yeah.
So the most interesting thing about this film is anybody can watch it because it's kind of an action flick. But the thing is, towards the end, it is completely out of we do not get our classic ending or anything of that. Every classic ending actually ends with if you have an action movie, then mostly those movies end with the hero and the villain having a big fight in the end, and the villain, the hero actually winning the fight. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is actually quite a different. This film actually takes a very different approach to that particular, how a film ends and how the film progresses.
Now,
But
before we get to the ending, I think uh, you should explain about the premise of the movie and where it is set and the characters. Let's go into that.
yeah,
Where is the movie set? The era,
yeah.
the
So
place, everything.
yeah, since you actually mentioned that, I'll just start I'll just give a small synopsis of the whole uh, theme. I mean, the whole idea of the film.
Movie. Whole movie.
So the movie actually revolves around a bag of cash. Okay, that
Hmm.
was kept at the scene of uh, you know a drug a drug deal gone bad. You might have seen,
Yeah,
you will
yeah.
actually see it in multiple movies in English movies.
Hmm.
And this film, basically, there is like our hero actually finds such a bust drug deal. Okay,
Yeah, by
and
accident he stumbles on it because
yeah,
he was hunting pronghorn at the time. Pronghorn is a kind of deer or antelope, whatever you like. He just chanced upon it, right? He just
yes, yes.
chanced upon the scene, this drug busted gang war scene, right, where everybody was dead. And go on, carry on.
Yeah, so as you said, he actually stumbled upon it, and but the thing that you have noticed, he is pretty methodical and he is quite resourceful in many ways. He's actually a well-built man. He's a little bit
Yeah,
short for an American, but still,
yeah.
he's a well-built man. He has experience in going to war, veteran experience. So
He's a
basically,
Vietnam veteran.
he
Yes.
does what he does is he actually follows for the final man standing. I mean, the last man standing. Ultimo hombre, as he
Yeah,
asked
ultimo
the
hombre.
Mexican who
He
was
knew that
actually
in such
leading
a
to them
drug war like situation, there would always be one last man who would take away the
standing. Yeah.
prize or the money.
So so he actually tracks this particular guy, and he in the end he finds it and he gets a bag of money, which is
The
actually
last ultimo hombre was also dead.
so he actually gets this money, and there is actually $2 million. So the time is actually 1980. Okay, and
It is.
at that time $2 million is a lot of money. Okay,
Is a lot of. It still is a
you don't
lot.
just stumble upon something like that. So
Yeah.
so he actually gets it and he takes it home. And
Hmm.
right away, he doesn't act like a normal person who just ran into a jackpot. He actually takes measures to make sure that he does not get caught. But the funny
Yes.
thing is, although he's quite methodical and stuff like that, but in the end, on that day itself, he actually returns to the crime scene. Okay,
Yes.
returns that bust drug deal to give the person who was alive at that moment, the person he talked to about the Ultimo Hombre,
The
and
only
he tried to give him what?
survivor of the drug bust, a Mexican gangster, was was shot in his abdomen, shot in his stomach, and was not dead yet. He asked when he saw this guy, he asked for water, but
Yeah,
he didn't have water at the time. So for some odd reason, he came back to the crime scene and to give this guy water.
yeah, because he couldn't sleep. You see,
Yeah,
because
it was.
somehow he's a normal human being, right? He had some humanity in him. At that
He
time,
has
at the
a
time
very.
that he,
It would hurt his conscience. That's why.
yeah, at the time he was actually consumed by greed.
Yes.
Maybe a sense of righteousness because these guys are actually drug dealers, so maybe he doesn't owe them something like that. But
Yeah.
still, he has what little humanity he has. He shows when he actually sleeps because that's how human mind works. Maybe that's particular to
Yes.
his character anyway. So he goes to this place, and he obviously this is a mess. I mean, of course, somebody finds him there, and they follow him, and he gets wounded once for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you actually, you know, you actually get introduced to the villain. Okay,
Yeah.
the main character, I
Actually,
should
the
say. Of course, the most
villain was
interesting character is
introduced
the
before the hero, right? In a
yeah.
short clip,
I'm not quickly following any kind of uh,
chronology, right?
yeah chronology right now. I'm just trying to like
Going
get the
into each
give the
character, right?
idea of the story anyway, not the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go into that later.
Okay. Okay.
So you have this villain who is a very interesting character who has a very different principle and something that as a character, a particular peculiar character in the film says anyway that he transcends his principles or his desires transcends what you call the normal notions like money.
His
Uh,
motivations are very different. He's a contract killer, but his motivation is not money or drugs. He has some goals and he has some principles,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
elaborate.
And so this guy is actually obviously going to follow this particular our hero, right?
Our hero,
And so
our
this is what the
protagonist in a
film
way.
actually revolves around. And there are multiple, like there is one main encounter that happens between them directly,
Hmm.
and you actually come into contact with different, uh, like you have the guy who actually, hired our main assassin, Sugar, that's what his
Yes.
name, and uh, then there is this particular corporation, who lost the money, obviously, who lost the money. That particular corporation actually hires you know, multiple people to look for the same money, and
Bounty
this in
hunters.
turn becomes makes conflicts with the principles we discussed earlier. That figure, actually, our villain actually was here, and
Then, by the way, we forgot to mention the name of the hero and the villain. The hero's name is Llewellyn Moss, and the villain is Anton Shibu, right?
yeah, Anton Chigurh. It's
Yes.
quite similar to sugar. So
Yeah,
the thing,
they just call them sugar.
yeah, it's a irrelevant name anyway because it's a silly name
Yeah.
we might feel, but the thing is, his nature is actually much like that. It doesn't matter what happens or what you are. It's just a fate, and everything is in control of something else. You cannot you cannot control everything.
Yes.
Okay, but so after that, you actually get into contact with. I mean, our Llewellyn Moss, he actually is pretty badly wounded, and
Yes.
he has a wife also. So he already took care of his wife and sent her to some place, while he actually got the money, to make
Yeah.
her safe. But our villain, he actually does not have any jurisdiction or any kind of
He's got no
anything that
loose
prevents
ends.
him from going behind his wife.
Yes. He doesn't, he's single and he doesn't have any attachments to anybody. So he's
Yeah.
just on his own.
Yep. So in the end, he actually threatens to kill his wife, Moses' wife, but
Yeah.
instead of accepting his fate, he actually, or accepting that our hero actually tries to challenge our villain,
Yeah,
and in
challenges
the
the
end,
villain and tries to fight back his fate.
yeah. But before any kind of fight happens, he's actually killed off in the movie without any, our normal movie nonsense. Like there is like a fight. Whenever we have a main role coming up, his end will
Yeah.
be like overly emotionalized, or things like that, right? You
Yeah, but this was
you show it
we
very
don't
emotionally.
even see him being killed. It's just
Yeah, you'll actually only see his body, right?
body.
From our narrative perspective.
Hmm.
Throughout this,
And
our narrative is also the most important character, by the way, because he's the only character who's actually, upholds that, that
moral
immutable,
values.
what do you call it, moral perspective, like
Moral
he's
perspective.
the right side,
He's
the
an
only right
old
side.
timer. He's the old
Yeah,
man mentioned in the. He's one of the old
yeah,
men who's
exactly.
mentioned in the title.
Yeah, he's the old man mentioned in it. Yeah. So our hero is dead. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my
Spoiler
god.
alert. Hashtag. What happened? What happened there?
No,
Phone fell over.
I'm actually no, I'm actually too excited. So I just you know bang
Oh, okay.
at my
Put
desk
down.
and it fell down.
Okay.
Oh my god! But anyway, that's cool. That's cool. Okay,
Let's come back to
so
our narrator. What was his name?
yeah,
His
his
name
name
was
is
Tommy
Ed
Lee Jones.
Tom
Tommy
Ed
Lee Jones.
Tom Petty.
Ed Tom, yes.
Ed
I only
Tom
remember
Petty.
the actor's name, Tommy. Okay.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones, right?
Yeah.
He's a great actor, by the way. I have to give
And
him
he's
points.
perfect for this task. because he is really ancient looking.
Yeah, of course. I mean, from time when he was in his prime, I mean, when he was young too, he looked like a really old guy because of his freckles and things like that. Yeah, he has this
Yeah.
character like going all around him. I mean,
Uh,
it, it's a different person. I mean, he, he's actually spectacular in this film because the only person who has, you know, a lot of acting to do, or even if you call it, you cannot call it acting because it just feels so natural.
hmm.
But I think we should refrain from, all the actor performances anyway.
Yeah.
So let's finish the story, okay? So
Yes.
our hero actually dies out of the camera. You actually only see his dead body, and we are not given
Yes.
any kind of insight into how he died or anything like that. So this is an
Yeah.
totally unconventional move to do in a film. Okay.
And one more thing, that he dies from an unexpected source. We all always we think that the villain would chase, hunt him down, and kill him, or Anton Sugar, but Sugar didn't kill him. Some Mexican gangs kill him, who
Yeah.
find him by chance.
Not by chance.
Yeah, they were
So
tracking his family, and
yeah, they were tracking his family, and they got information that from his wife's
mother-in-law.
mother.
Yeah,
Okay,
mother. Yeah,
wife's mother that he would be somewhere in Odessa.
yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry, El Paso, right? El Paso,
El
not in
Paso,
Odessa.
Texas.
El Paso, Texas. And they find him and they kill him off. But I'm sure, I mean, they did not get the money, of course.
They didn't get the money because
No.
it was hidden very cleverly by our hero in the ventilation system of the hotel.
Yeah, but the thing is, the ventilation idea, he didn't know. Like, Llewellyn Moss didn't know. Like, Sigur already had an idea of that.
Yeah, Shigur was way ahead of him.
Yeah, because he already tried this particular
It was
tactic
really
before.
fun, watching him making all the arrangements to hide the money, right? Buying
Yo,
tent
that's
poles
yeah.
from, that reveals
Because
a lot about his character.
that shows that he's very resourceful.
Yes. Otherwise,
Yeah,
people people wouldn't think that much in such a situation. People will lose their cool. But he kept his cool
they
and
just they'll just
thought of,
hug their money and stay wherever they please, right? They'll just hug their money.
yes,
That's what
yes.
I would do anyway if I got something like $2 million.
I'd go to the police. I'll get a reward, helping the
Oh,
police.
you'll be interested in the reward, right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
better than what happened to
Yeah,
the
better
hero.
being that.
Yes.
But let me ask you, if you had not watched this movie, you would have said taken some chance, right?
No, I'm not into the business of taking chances. Not, not a big risk taker.
Okay. That's a really interesting insight into you now.
That's
You're going
that's
beyond the
reveals
fourth.
something about my character, right?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, where did we stop? Where did we stop?
the hero died.
Yeah,
That's where
hero
we
died.
stopped.
And our narrator actually finds him dead. So this
Yes,
narrator is actually feels quite guilty about it because he promised the Llewellyn Moss's wife to protect him in one way or the other, but he could not do that.
and he feels
He has
very
that
guilty about
regret.
it. We forgot to mention what exactly is his position in this. He's not just a narrator, right? He's the sheriff of the town. He's the
Yeah, of
police
course.
chief,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right, right. I forgot that.
Somebody who's not seen the movie will be confused.
So
Yeah,
yeah, he's actually sheriff of the county that Moss first lived in. I mean, before being dead, of
Moss,
course.
yes. And
And he actually
we should
knows this
mention
particular
that this
person.
happened in Texas on the U.S. Mexico border.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the drug gang was a that we're mentioning every now and then. It's a Mexican drug gang which does cross-border operation, narcos type.
Mexican drug cartel, right? As they say.
Cartel, yes. And and uh, and we should also mention that it is slightly, I mean, not exactly, it's a Western themed movie, like the old Western movies in America.
Yeah, you felt that, right? It's actually
Yes,
very reminiscent of a Western movie. So we will get to that part and we'll explain why. I mean, how every character is a different type of Western film in itself, and character from a different era of Western film. So we should just end with the whole story anyway.
yeah,
So after this guy being dead and the sheriff being sad and all, in the end you actually see the our villain Sugar actually going to Villain Moses' wife's place. Okay, her
yes,
name is Carla Jean, and
yeah,
she's actually portrayed by Kelly MacDonald. She's actually British, so the slang and everything is quite spot on, and that's a great
yes.
work anyway. So
Everybody is everybody does their accents really well in this movie.
yeah, very well.
Even even Javier Bardem plays our villain Anton Chigurh. He's a Spaniard. He's from Spain, but he does South US accent very well.
Yep. So yeah, so our villain Sugar, he actually goes to her. Even no, I'm sorry, we forgot about Sugar getting the money, right? Of course, he found the money,
Yes.
and
When Carla Jean sees him in her house, she thought that he was after the money. So she
yeah,
naturally told him that I don't have anything, I have no money, but he was not there for the money.
yeah, because he promised him, right? Like he says,
Yes, he
it's
had to
pointless.
keep
I
his
mean,
word.
why would you kill someone if you know the matter is settled, right?
Yeah.
It's common logic, right? That's what she said.
Hmm.
But
That's what.
it falls down to the principles that Figure, because he's not a conventional villain, or he's not someone who's looking for money. He's just looking out for his own principles and his own way.
Yes. His
He's
own
a modern
twisted.
villain, right?
He's,
Yeah.
he's got zero
So
empathy to fellow human beings. He just, if he wants someone to die, he'll just make it happen.
yeah, you actually see him killing people multiple times in this film, and the first time you do
Yes.
he does it, it's in the most vicious way, right? Like
Yes. That was
with his
his
tattoos.
introduction scene.
Yeah.
He, he kills the policeman. Policeman who caught him on the street with by strangling him with his handcuffs.
Yep. It's a very difficult sight to watch because blood actually sprays out of the neck of that particular
Yeah.
uh, officer. Deputy, I should
He
say.
cut the jugular vein and blood starts spurting
Yeah.
out of his neck. Yes.
And you'll actually see the entire commotion on the floor because his
Yeah.
the person who was dying, his feet actually kept on like
Yeah.
what do you call it?
His struggle, we can see his struggle
Yeah,
to survive.
on the
And he's not
floor.
like
Yeah.
he's a very strong man, but but the
He's
villain is
young
so
and
powerful.
strong. It was
Villain,
Shigeru is actually much more professional, and it
yeah.
shows that he is so cold and merciless when it
Yes.
comes to his own inconveniences.
Yeah. And kills him on the spot. One more feature that he usually kills when there's nobody else around, right? Unless it's a
Yeah, yeah.
shootout or something. Shootout or something. Usually, and also has a very special weapon.
Yeah, of course, the weapon.
Weapon is the
So
highlight.
the weapon is actually, it's a very interesting take into, this particular character because he kills people like he kills animals. You see,
Yes.
like there is this
It's
gun.
a
It's actually called
it's
a
a kind of
bolt gun.
a gas-based gun which is attached to a gas cylinder. It's used
It's
to
it's called a
kill
bolt gun.
bolt gun. Bolt gun, yeah, it's something that used to kill, cattle or farm animals for meat.
Yeah, yeah,
But it works perfectly, just like a gun.
yeah. And you actually get a glimpse how it works, right?
Yeah,
The second kill is actually killed with the, and you're actually shown what it is, right?
yeah. And it leaves it creates an entry wound and exit wound like a bullet, but
No, no,
leaves
there
no
is no exit
trace.
wound. No, there is no
Huh?
exit wound, just an entry wound. So the
Oh
thing that
yeah,
puzzled the sheriff was that there was an entry wound, but no bullet. There was no
yeah,
exit wound. Okay? So there should be a bullet, right? So
yeah.
there
That
is an
was the
interesting
policeman.
exchange
Our
between the
narrator
deputy
and
and the
his
sheriff.
subordinate were discussing. There was no exit wound. There was an entry wound, but the bullet was missing. So they were thinking somebody put their finger into a wound and pulled out the bullet.
Knife into it, and maybe just they just pull it out or something like that.
Yeah, but they could imagine that the killer could have used this particular weapon.
Yeah, yeah. It's totally unconventional, for a film. No, no, not for a film, but
Yes,
for language.
it's inconvenient carrying such a heavy cylinder.
Yeah. But the thing is, he always carries it because it's useful when he comes to a door, right? In
Yeah,
multiple instances, he fixes the door by just, using his bolt gun and,
shooting the bolt gun. Yeah, using the
yeah,
bolt gun.
shooting the bolt gun and the lock cylinder, no? It's actually a
Yeah,
lock cylinder. It actually, just shoots off the door and hits the other wall, right?
yeah. It's but still, man, a man who looks like that carrying a cylinder around would be very noticeable in real life.
Yeah,
Anyway,
of course. Yeah. Maybe that's how he got caught in the first place, anyway. Because in the
yeah,
introduction scene, he's actually getting
yes.
caught, right?
But he made sure not to leave many traces behind. He just he if he wants to go somewhere, he just kills a person and takes his car
Yeah.
very
And burnt it.
conveniently.
Once he
Yeah,
burned it, right? He burned his
yeah.
car.
And after he's done using the car, he
Disposed
just
of it.
burn it. No, nothing left. No fingerprints. Nothing. Very interesting character. Lovely man.
So, a little disclaimer for the viewers. So, if you haven't seen this film, even if you have, come here, I mean, you actually watched the entire video till now, I should say that, even if you go watch this movie, even after having the ending spelled out to you,
Yeah.
you'll actually have a lot of things to watch for. Because I should tell you my personal experience. The very first time I noticed this film is when I was in 10th or something, because it used to play in the HBO, our channel, and
Yeah.
there's this very peculiar shot, where our hero, anti-hero, that means Llewellyn Moss, is actually sitting in a hotel room, and he anticipates the Sugar, our villain, actually coming, and he just sits
Yes.
there with his lights off, and Sugar actually, uses his bolt gun. There is an very interesting way, where you just zoom in on the particular action when you actually,
Yeah.
and it's very frightening in one way,
Yeah.
and very interesting. Like you might have felt that, right?
Yeah. I noticed it was like a almost like the suspense of a horror movie, right?
Yeah, it surpassed lots of horror movies because in horror movies you actually see it once and you never get it back, right? But
Yeah.
for this particular scene, I get it every time. I mean, it gets me every time.
Yeah. And you should see the expression on Llewellyn's face. It really looked like he was scared for his life.
Yeah, yeah.
Really good
Because he
acting.
was confused. Yeah. But anyway, the viewer should actually see the film in its entirety because it's just really well shot. I mean, of course, the cinematographer is Roger Deakins.
We can describe everything. People will see for themselves and judge
Yeah.
it accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I should tell about Roger Deakins anyway because one who might have seen English films, they will be actually familiar with this work. Like recent times, there was this movie called 1917, right? 1917, the First World War film. He did that film, and there is another film which is dear to me. I watched it multiple times. This is called Blade Runner 2049. I
Yeah,
believe we have watched it
we
together,
saw
right?
it together in 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 Shobha City,
I
Trishul.
mean, yeah,
I remember there were only 4 or 5 people over there.
yeah, but still, this was too
The
much of
movie
a
is
good.
good. Movie is good, but people didn't know much about it. That's why.
Yeah, because the thing is, it had a first movie prequel, right? Blade Runner.
Yeah, that
Not
was
many people have seen it.
it
It's
was
actually
very
very
old
fast
old
movie in the
movie.
West.
That it was it was the lead of that movie was that Indiana Jones character. What was his name? What- Indiana
Harrison
Jones, Star Wars, and
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. Yes, yes.
So, as you can guess, our hero's wife as well is she's also killed by the our like our villain. You don't actually
Antagonist.
see that killing anyway, but
Yeah, we
you
don't
have to
even see her
deduce it. That's the
body.
most interesting
We
thing.
just know that she died because of certain
Certain
mannerisms of the
actions
movie.
or something that he does when he exits the house,
Yeah,
right? That's the
he
Carla
he
Jean.
he wipes his feet on the rug when he goes out. It's a characteristic way. Whenever he kills someone, whenever he gets
He
blood on
makes
his
sure
feet,
that his boots are safe and clean.
boots are clean, and he throws his sometimes he throws his socks away, things like that. Very a lot of thought has been put into his character.
Yep. So yeah, since we have so the very ending, okay, the very ending actually comprises of our Sheriff Tombell, Ed Tombell, okay,
Hmm.
our right character. He actually retires because he identifies that this is not a country for someone like him, or because this is not a job for someone like him in the end. He
Yeah,
expected
he
things to be better when he aged, but it's just the opposite. So he just retires
yeah
from the sheriff, that particular
he
sheriff
he meets
position.
many people who are of his age group or older than him who say the same
Yeah,
thing that there is a lot of senseless psychopathic violence going around those parts and there's nothing we can do
we
about
can
it.
do about it. Yeah,
Yes, especially the older generation. He also
yeah,
mentions that in the old timers, people who came before him didn't even actively use a gun, didn't even have
yeah,
to carry around a gun. But things have changed since.
yes. So this is how the movie closes. You know, uh, he explains two dreams. Okay, so those dreams are like the first dream was actually quite a dream of regret. Like
Yes,
his father actually gave him money, and he lost that money. He does not say much about it. Okay, so the very next dream, it actually says that his father actually went through the snowy mountain. Like he went forward with a horn with fire in it, and he sets it down somewhere. And when our hero, like our narrator, like Ed Tomber, actually goes behind him, and he expects to join his father. But the thing is, he wakes up. He wakes up
yes,
right then and there. So I think it's a kind of reference to how reality strikes, because when he was actually expecting much more things to come down or settle down, but
yes.
in the end he just has to face reality.
Yeah,
This is not a
his
country for
he
old men.
throughout
So that's how
the
the film ends.
progress of the movie, we see the idealist in him dying slowly, inch by inch, and by the end of it, he's a total cynic.
Yep. Maybe he consciously isn't, but his unconsciously he is accepting that fact, right?
He
Because he retired,
accepted
right?
his fate.
His action
Yep.
proves it, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that is. That is what we
That's the
see.
entire story, right?
Yes.
Yep.
No Country for Old Men. And the title is pretty strongly justified.
Yeah, I mean, from the very first like monologue, that
Yes.
Western shots, the showing the desert and everything, and during that there is this monologue, and that monologue itself points out to the entire premise of the movie, right?
Yes.
This is not the old world. This is the new world where things are run in a very different way, and it's much more to the principles that Shikhar actually holds here.
I was sheriff of this county when I was 25 years old. Hard to believe. Grandfather was a lawman. Father, too. Me and him were sheriffs at the same time, him up in Plano and me out here. I think he's pretty proud of that. I know I was. Some of the old-time sheriffs never even wore a gun. A lot of folks find that hard to believe. Jim Scarborough never carried one. That's the younger Jim. Gaston Boykins wouldn't wear one up in Comanche County. I always like to hear about the old-timers. Never missed a chance to do so. You can't help but compare yourself against the old-timers. Can't help but wonder how they'd have operated these times. There's this boy I sent to the electric chair at Huntsville here a while back. My arrest and my testimony. He killed a 14-year-old girl. Papers said it was a crime of passion, but he told me there wasn't any passion to it. Told me that he'd been planning to kill somebody for about as long as he could remember. Said if they turned him out, he'd do it again. Said he knew he was going to hell. Be there in about 15 minutes. I don't know what to make of that. I surely don't. The crime you see now, it's hard to even take its measure. It's not that I'm afraid of it. I always knew you had to be willing to die to even do this job. But I don't want to push my chips forward and go out and meet something I don't understand. A man would have to put his soul at hazard. You'd have to say, okay. I'll be part of this world.
All the events in the movie are kind of justifying Chigurh's view of life.
Yep. Yeah. Even the film cinematography actually, tries to, side with our villains notion because that's a reality. Right? Whoever aligns himself with the principles of the reality, the things that control reality, he actually will win the entire scene, right? Because only he has a chance.
Even he got a taste of his own medicine in the end. The premise is, of course, that he gets into a car accident and he's badly hurt with one bone juts out of his arm. Yeah, and he makes a sling out he gives money to two kids who are just passing by on their bicycles and takes a shirt from one of those kids and gives him money and makes a sling out of it. Basically, disappears from the scene so that he's not found by hospital authorities.
So the interesting thing about that, the final ending where Shigar actually walks off is in normal like Western movies, the very final scene will be our hero walking into the sunset because
Yes.
he has done everything and he just goes into the sunset. So in this
Yes.
film,
Happily
the
ever
only
after.
kind of action that we are getting that's much similar to that particular portion of the film that's done is our Shikhar actually giving the kids money and while they're quarreling, he just walks off.
Walks off into the distance.
Yeah.
Like he's the hero
And
of the
this
movie.
film actually it actually fucks with every kind of notions about a conventional Western film or conventional movie experience.
Oh,
In the end.
it's the opposite.
Yep. So since we have already explained the entire synopsis of the film, we just dive into the into the West, the premise of the thing you noticed, which is, this being a
Yeah,
Western, this being a
yeah,
Western. Okay.
yes,
I did
Western
some,
movie.
yeah, I did
I,
some digging around, and I just found very interesting things. Like, because when we talk about films, Western is a genre which which has a very long history. Okay, it's a
yes.
it's a it's a kind of branch of movies in its own way,
Hmm.
because movies
It's the kind of
actually,
movies
you
our
know
grandparents must have seen if they had cinemas back then.
yeah, because Americans were actually pretty good at commercializing this particular films
Sure.
from the starting itself, like in 1920, from 1920s itself, they had begun their
They did a lot of
contribution into the
pioneering
commercial films.
work, right?
Yeah, yeah. They pioneered in many things, of course. And films is their kind of their most important things in their active to me.
It is a big soft power that they use money and Hollywood to to create a positive opinion about
Of
themselves in
course,
the
because
entire world.
we are actually talking about in a very heartly manner, right? Because I am talking
Yeah.
about in a very heartly manner, and I am talking about American culture, not even Indian culture. So
Yes.
it does mean a lot.
It's
I
one
mean,
of their best exports in a way.
yeah.
Not China, their rival China, they can't have anything to, at least now they don't have the kind of cinematic brilliance to, counter Hollywood.
Yeah, but they cannot do it. If they can do it, they have to make something like they have to let
They
people
have to make
learn,
something
or
more
they have to
relatable,
produce
right?
something.
I think America being, a country of immigrants, it brings people perspectives
Yeah,
from across the world, so it's more universal. There, they can present ideas that can connect to everyone,
yes.
right? That's one of their biggest, and of course they have lots of money, budget.
Yeah, people are getting divided, things like that. But we won't go into it. So,
Yeah,
as I told you, it's actually a very separate branch in itself, because from time immemorial, from the first time movies began, Western is actually a very interesting premise, because you have a very simple story. Even if you have a very simple story and you set it in a Western character setting, you get a very interesting action movie. Okay,
yeah.
because
A
The
reference
idea of the
for
West is,
people in India would be who've not seen Western movies, like including myself, is would be Sholay. It's the
yep,
closest thing you could get to a Western movie without being a Western movie.
yep.
And I don't know how many of you have seen Sholay. If you want to get a Western experience Indian style, you should see that. It's a old 60s movie of Amitabh Bachchan, Dharmendra.
It's a very
And
famous movie.
very, yeah, I
It's
don't
very
think
famous.
you need to, but still, it's if somebody hasn't, I don't know, millennial, what did these millennials see? These young kids,
Yep.
I think,
So of
yeah,
course, see Sholay. Of course, it's a very good movie, right? I haven't seen it, so
yeah.
I'll be watching it in the coming days. I'm sorry about that.
What?
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, but it's okay. You just if you've seen the Western or Hollywood movie, you've seen
I'll
Sholay.
get the idea, right?
Yes, you get the idea. Very similar premise.
Okay. So
Uh,
in the beginning, movies were like that. Very simple movies, very like separate. Like you can actually classify a villain or a hero just by sight. If he wears a white hat, then he's the hero. If he wears a black hat and black dress, he's a villain. That's how simple like the old films were. Okay.
yeah.
So that's the very first idea of a good guy and a bad guy in a western. So if you look into our movie, okay, No Country for Old Men, you
If
can
you
actually see,
see your villain Anton, you can say without knowing anything about him that he's not up, he's up to no good.
Yep. He's actually the villain. Also, I'm actually more interested in talking about our sheriff, Ed Tom Bell.
Yeah, Ed Tom is, very archetypal hero type character, right? Very, wise, wise older man. You see that in westerns. A lot of there would be a sheriff, would be an older man, and he'd be always. You won't be the hero, but you would be on the side of the protagonist.
Yeah, so the Ed Tom Bell, that particular character, it actually looks like he was actually, dropped into this film from an era that is like 50 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay, if he could exist as a younger man 50 years ago in a particular kind of, or 50 or 60 years ago in a particular kind of a very archetypal Western film. Okay, a very stereotyped Western film, you could say. So that's the first thing about it. Then after some time, after having so many films about simple Western premise, and you have simple good and bad guy characters. Okay, and after
yeah,
that, you have a period where where the audience actually expects much complicated characters. And the movie
yeah,
industry, they also recognize that, because if you try to execute, like if you try to release a movie that's based on very simple Western notions to an audience that's fed up with that, you won't get results, right? You won't be getting much audience there. Okay, so after some time, Western movies actually became much more based on reality, because if you watch movies like Good, the Bad, the Ugly, the thing is, the good guy character actually becomes a lot more complicated. He's actually only trying to make the best out of his situation. He might be in a bad situation. Okay, in that case, he makes the best worst situation, the best worst decision. Okay,
yeah.
he might, if you put some money around him, he might take it, because that's his morality. Because to live in that world, he had to be resourceful, and he had to take that money.
Yes,
Otherwise, like, he'll just belong with the outdated characters. Like then there are of course sheriffs there too, but sheriffs are much like a secondary good guy character in those
yes.
movies. This was like in 1960s, 1970s, in that particular era. Okay,
Yeah. Like
so
one more movie that I've seen is slightly Western theme. It's a more recent film is Django Unchained, right? It's got very similar themes. It's got a very extremely negative villain, a flawed hero, flawed characteristic, and a mentor-like character to him. Right? It's also, I think, a good example of a modern Western.
yeah, it is actually a modern version, because if you take the main character, okay, which is Django, he's actually
Yeah,
corrupted. He's not perfectly good, because he was a slave, right?
yeah.
He actually blows things up, like he kills people right, left and right, and things like that. But he is actually, in the end, he is moral, right? He has morality, and his decisions are justified, because he was a
Yeah,
slave.
he's fight.
Why?
There is some, he's fighting for a cause, right? He's fighting against slavery and all of that.
Yep,
So that's why his morality
it's
is a little
justified.
bit is with little bit relative, right?
But he's not a
Because
villain, because he
for
does
some
not
of us
kill
is
innocent
greater.
people. Yep,
Yeah,
he has this emotional drive. Yeah,
yes,
things like
yeah.
that. So of course, it is a modern kind of Western. Okay. So,
And this
if
is
we
also
talk about our own,
like we coming to it,
film,
the movie
No
that
Country for
yeah,
Old Men,
uh,
you'll actually notice that Llewellyn Moss, the guy who takes the money, is actually
yeah,
a very similar character to that particular era of film, modern Western film. He
yes,
actually sees money and he takes it, because that's how the world is. I mean, there is a possibility of not getting. I mean, not getting caught,
Yeah.
or he can just
Yes.
spend money any way possible, and he
See,
has the
if
resources.
I
Right? He's a pretty
earlier
clever
I
guy.
said if I get that kind of money, I turn it over to the police. But if I was a resourceful person like Mr. Moss,
Yeah,
then things might have been different.
different because, and also you had to be in that particular time, right? 1980s. It was much more, you know, the hippie culture was actually ending, and it was much more
Yes.
like there is no internet still, and you don't have CCTVs anywhere. You don't have
Yeah.
people tracking your spending.
There was no internet, no mobile phones, and all of that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of. It was harder to track people.
There
Of
is no
course,
NSA.
there's no NSA. Now, speaking, coming to, tracking. The tracking also plays an important role in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We should actually mention it. Hero actually gets confused as to how he was being followed so thoroughly, and every time he
Yes.
might move, the villains, I mean, the people who are looking for the money are always behind him, or some way gets around him. But because he's such a resourceful man, he still finds it easy to, not easy, but he
He finds
escapes.
there's a transponder in that money. That's how people were tracking him.
Yeah.
He throws away the transponder, but even that doesn't save him in the end, right?
Yep. So then the interesting thing is, I actually watched this movie yesterday again. So the interesting thing is how he finds it is very interesting. He actually goes through the money, okay, and he finds a note. I mean, when he just flips through the money, he finds money in between. I mean, all the currency is actually in $100, okay,
Yeah.
and it's 10,000. So when he actually flips through the money, he finds $1 notes.
Oh, that's how you. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, but I noticed it yesterday because I was always confused as to how he found it because he just only just flips around, right? So when he actually flipped around, he actually finds $1 note. So he
Okay.
takes that stack and he just takes a look, and
Now
the
that's
top one
news
is
to
actually
me.
100.
If you're not observing closely in this movie,
Yeah.
you'll miss out a lot of things.
Because you
Yes.
have to see the movie in a theater, right? If you're in a theater, you will have noticed it. If you're watching in a
Yeah.
small screen, there's no way you're going to watch it unless you have that doubt. Like how did he find out? Like he did not see that. You have to be detail specific otherwise. Like I did yesterday. So there are a lot of things and small things in this film, which like this one, where the audience is actually supposed to take a look at what he's seeing. Okay, he actually gets to he had to be involved in that particular film. Otherwise, you won't get a lot of things because most of these are actually just shown to you, and you have to deduce it what's happened.
Hmm. Yes. But I think that's what sets classy movies apart from like Michael
Yeah.
Bay kind of movies, right?
Yeah, because the audience, if the audience, expects a movie to be good, he has to
Yeah.
invest in it. Okay, and if the
Yeah.
movie actually places bets on that, which means if the movie actually expects the person to look into their movie, it will eventually become a good
It's
movie.
not like it's not like a regular commercial movie with spoon feed the audience, right? They just give them what they want. It doesn't challenge them in any.
Yes,
Doesn't force them to think or anything.
yes. I call them like passable movies. You just see
What?
them for time pass. Okay.
Yeah, of course. That's a that's why I don't think what was this a commercial success? I didn't know about
Yeah,
that.
this was a very good commercial success. It bagged like $170 million or something. I don't remember exactly.
That
It was made
means
on a budget of 25 million, I think.
that means there's a lot of people with good taste.
Yeah, because you have to understand, anyone who's watching this film will not get bored in the first section,
Yeah,
at least in the first half, or the second half till the end. But in the end,
even if
they
you
get
don't
confused. That,
pick up on all the nuances, you can still enjoy. It's
yeah.
still an enjoyable
Yeah,
movie
you
because
can
of
still
that.
enjoy it because its action is actually really interesting, and Like
Yes.
very like if someone who's interested in action movies watch this film, they'll actually be able to enjoy it much better than a normal action movie.
Yeah.
It's actually much more than just explosions and gunfights. It's just more than that. There's a lot of play around here, like cat and mouse. A lot of cat and mouse, right?
Yes. And it also, it's realistic, right? It's not like
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's very
one
realistic.
man one man kills 70 people, things like that. I
Yeah.
don't think one more thing that I've
I know
seen
what
in
you
this
are
movie
referring
that this
to.
we're not doing like Hindi Hindi movie levels anyway, but
So we have actually talked about the second character, right? So the third character, which is our main character, I would say, okay, which is Anton Sugar. Okay, he's
yes.
actually a very different kind of character. He does not have any
One
rules.
more thing
He has principles.
I just
Okay?
noticed one thing that is you see the character of our hero Llewellyn Moss. He carries a gun. He fights for his life. He's in a lot of action sequences, but he doesn't kill even one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one great thing about him. Even though he's on the run, he's being chased everywhere. He doesn't even kill someone to save his own life.
But you missed something. He did kill something.
He killed a dog.
He killed a dog, and that is
He
a
killed a
very
pit bull.
very bad
That was
sign because
only when it was jumping at him. If he hadn't killed it, he would have that dog would be eating his face.
But in a Western, there is another element. Okay, I'll tell you this. There is this kicking a dog. Okay, in Westerns, in all Westerns, there is this kicking a dog, and whoever, I mean, you can imagine a dog is just lying there, and the guy is just kicking a dog. Okay, what do you make out of that particular person?
The callous person.
He's an ultimate villain, badass, right? Or no badass, I would say ultimate villain, right? Because who does that?
Very,
Yeah.
very
So
twisted
there is
people.
another moment which actually points to that, where our villain figure actually goes to Del Rio, turns to Del Rio, and there is this scene of you know a bridge where he just shoots, a crow, I think, a crow or something. He just shoots it randomly without any without
Just
any
for
motivation.
target practice. Target
Yeah.
practice, yes.
So that is actually a reference to the Western notion of kicking the dog, or just killing off an animal,
Oh.
just for the
So
fun of
if
it.
you
That is also
regularly
a
watch
Western.
Western movies, you get all these references.
Yeah, but the thing is, I haven't watched that many Western movies, so I had to learn about it from like different articles and things like that. So that's what I've been
Oh.
doing anyway. But
You've been
I
doing
could
a lot
easily
of
connect to it
research.
because since I have seen movies,
Yes.
so these are the motifs that come, you know, from Western. So while this movie was actually evolved, I mean, taken from a novel, right? Cormac
Yeah.
McCarthy's the novel of the same name. We haven't
Yes.
mentioned it yet. And this
Yeah.
movie is actually quite faithfully rendered in this from that particular novel. But the most important thing is a movie is a movie. Okay, it is not a novel. The movie has
Yes.
to draw inspiration from movie itself. So Coen Brothers actually did a very good job of it. That's why I'm getting all these small things about westerns, and they have brought everything together in this particular movie. So that is a very interesting thing. The only movie that has had this much praise while executing a story from a novel is Godfather.
Uh, Even that is a lot of. It has a lot of minor differences. I've not seen the movie. I've read some of that novel. I mean, part of that, partly.
So, as we have explained in the entire video, the story of this film, while
Yeah.
watching, an audience might feel like a very different kind of despair, like our old man felt. Like this
Yeah.
is a world without, you know, which is not made for you or as a person, but this is a world where reality trumps over everything. Reality
Yeah.
is a very different thing, and it is different for different age. Okay,
Hmm.
by age I mean different era
Era.
or yeah, exactly. So this movie is actually, you know, I mean, you actually get the idea that you are being told that you have to accept the reality as it is. Sometimes the reality might be much more
Must
friendly to
be
the
contrary to
bad
what you're
thing.
expecting. What
Yeah,
should be. How things should be.
nothing ever works out to what how you are expecting it, because then there wouldn't be problems happening. It would just be an easy life, or people would get spoiled, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea of a Tom Bell having the idea that God will come into my life when I get older. That's a presumption, right?
That's yeah. And that thought process is represented by our narrator, our Ed Tom,
Yeah,
because he's old school. Because in the beginning
yeah,
of the movie, he was much less cynical and was a God-fearing man and had a lot of idealism in it. Towards the end, he just goes with the flow of the movie.
yes. After seeing this movie, let me ask you, like, what did it make you feel? Did you see it like a normal Michael Bay or normal passable movie, or did it have an effect on your life or the expectations you had, and did it have a long did, did it affect how you view this world?
Not really, because I kind of brushed through it and watched it on Netflix on a phone. I think to get a real experience of a movie, we should see it in at least a home theater, if not a proper theater. But
Exactly.
it was engaging. It was the same feel that I got after reading a novel.
Cool. That's
It
good. Because reading a novel is a really long process. You have to build every character in your mind. You have to build
and
the
you
uh,
in novel your mind reading a novel your mind unless the novel you know describes things very well. You have to do the cinematography with your head, with your
yeah.
mind. That
But
depends
the
on
thing
the
is, if it's
talent.
a cinema, if a movie can actually give that to you in a few moments, that is a
Yes,
great thing. It's very impossible, very, very difficult to do. Because you have
yeah,
to use the language of the film.
but
Language of the film
it's a
which
different.
makes sense only from
Watching
the
a movie is watching a movie is a different experience from reading a novel. But
yes.
the thing is about reading a novel, you need to have a lot of free leisure time. I've not read a novel in years now. You need, I mean, if you like, if I go on a long trip, like on a train or something, I won't watch a movie. I'd read a novel at that time because it keeps you engaged and it doesn't, throw all the charge away from your phone. It's better
Yep.
that way. And watch a movie
It
to be
only
in a
requires
phone
the human
with
charge, right?
headphones in, you can't really enjoy it that much. If sitting at a
Yep.
home, it's okay. Sitting at a home and watching it on a TV or a surround sound with a surround sound and home theater, all that experience is okay. But going on a long trip or just having a lot of, if you have a lot of free time, novels are the best thing.
Cool.
And if you see, there are some things which cannot be completely, yeah, both mediums have their limitations, right? You cannot create a visual effect, no matter how good a author describes a scene. The same visual effect cannot be produced in a novel.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, if you're the kind of people who love trivia, I thrive on trivia. That you get only from a novel, like Lord of the Rings. No matter how many Lord of the Rings movies, I have not seen it, but I'm giving an example. How many Lord of the Rings movies you have seen? It won't be the same as reading a novel because it has got a lot of data in it. A lot of data. He's created an entire new language called Elvish and other languages too, as far as I remember. And there's a lot of minor trivial, not trivial, lots of things in it that cannot be faithfully rendered in a movie. After, if you see a movie after having read the novel, that's the best. That's the best. You know a lot of things that the other people who have not read the novel have. I mean, people who have not read the novel don't know. You are in on a lot of other things as well. You can truly enjoy the movie. You can get the references, like you can get the nuances. Like you said, you mentioned a lot of nuances in the movie.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But if you read a novel, you'll get a lot of those nuances in the movie when you see the movie. You don't have to see a lot of movies to you know know what you're
Yeah.
going to expect. That's one
Because
thing.
yeah, it actually traces back to the. I mean, even if we are seeing as a very short movie,
Hmm.
the the how it expresses things. It actually depends on the whole language of film that was developed from 100 years back.
Yeah,
And there are simple movies which actually depend on very short cuts. Just just a static scene. You just show people in it, and you just cut to another scene. Things like that. Those
yeah,
are the very basic ideas, but there are other things which actually require like a history of like since we are actually talking about No Country for Old Men, it's actually premised as a western. So
yeah,
it expects you to have a knowledge of western in order to understand the very small things about it.
yeah,
You might call it trivia, but it's also essential to the film.
yeah. But
The
yeah,
deep expression of that
trivia.
film.
Calling it trivia because I don't remember. There are some other better words for it. I don't remember it that remember it at the moment. But yeah, normal. That's a the Western theme movies. You derive your substance from movies. It's not a novel specific movie to be exact. Even though it's based on a novel, the themes it uses are all based on other movies. But
Yes.
there are many like fantasy or detective fiction. All these, most of them are based on novels, books only, and sometimes you just can't make a way the word to word perfect translation from a novel to a movie, right? Have you seen detective movies like Agatha Christie or Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes, the Sherlock Holmes that we've seen is Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes is very different from the novel. It's not even the same story. They've changed the story as well. I think the series by Cumberbatch is more faithful to the novel than the movie. It's got more elements to it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And anyway, you have not answered my question. Like, what
What
did you
was
feel?
the
What was the feeling that you had, or did something new experience? Did you experience something new by watching this film?
Yes, I told you that again. This is my only experience of a western is Sholay, right? That's the only western movie I've seen. So this was different from that movie. It wasn't a very idealistic movie. Sholay is a typical western good guy versus bad guy kind of film, and follows conventional morality. But this morality is totally skewed in favor of the villain. The whole theme, there's a whole sense of cynicism in the whole movie. When the main character Llewellyn Moss died, I thought the movie was going to be over, but it ran for quite a lot of time after his death. I didn't even recognize him first because he's just
Because
like
he was just lying there, like
he's just
someone who
like
just died in the rushes, right?
yeah. Even in a conventional way, a hero even dies differently. He even looks good even in death. but he just looked like he was a dead person, which he was. I think that was one of the, I was rooting for him throughout the movie, and then I see him dead. So I thought I'll skip the movie after that, but the movie still was engaging after the death of the protagonist, which tells us that it's not truly about the protagonist. The movie,
Yeah.
they're trying to convey
Yes.
something. Yeah. Would you care to elaborate on that?
So if you're telling us like if a movie like it's the same thing I told you earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the characters in the film, or you know, it's not about siding with any characters, or because this movie is actually the from the heading itself, you can actually see that this is actually much more towards the viewpoint of our narrator in one way or
Yeah.
the other. But how the narrator wants to see the world, or how he observes it. Okay, he's the one who's much more similar to our state because we are actually watching it. He's also watching this particular drama unfold. Okay,
Yeah.
and he's the one who's actually much more similar to us. But in the end, we are actually given an experience. We are actually given the cold treatment when it comes to characters dying off, like our protagonist, like our anti-hero, I should say. Anti-hero dies off. We're actually watching it from his, like our, we're actually seeing the death of our Llewellyn Moss from the eyes of the old man, like the old man, which is Ed Tomber. But
Hmm.
even through while we watch the whole film, we get that cold treatment every time, or we see that things happen without any reason. Okay,
Yes.
he finds the money by accident. The thing that he killed, like the pronghorn, the our hero killed, it's being taken away by some other dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are all pointless things.
Yeah.
There is also another character which comes in between, which is the character of Woody Harrelson, a very interesting character, a very charming character, I should say.
Oh, we forgot.
Kind of
Almost
a
forgot
relief
about him.
through our whole journey, anyway.
He was the second. He was one of the bounty hunters hired by the corporation to retrieve the
Yeah,
money, and he knows this character, Anton Chigurh, and he is in awe of him. He's totally. He knows everything about him, and is scared of him and
not
admires him
really,
at the
but
same time.
but he expects him to, because he's in a position where he has a very luxurious life, okay, and he has
Yeah.
no money left, so that's why he takes this job because this is so much
Yeah.
money, and they're offering him too much money for this. That's the only reason he
Yeah.
takes this because he knows that the guy cannot be defeated. He knows that, but his helplessness
Yeah.
actually
He's worth.
leads to this.
He thinks it's worth a shot, but even though he's not too sure of his success.
He's not. I mean, he knows. Like uh, our villain actually, Sugar actually tells him in the end, like this was a pointless exercise what you did. So
Your
what?
principles. Where did it get you?
Yeah, where did it get to? I mean, because he knows that our like Carson Wells, he knows that this guy cannot be bought, or anything that comes in between him, he'll
There's
go and
no
kill.
way he could
But
be
still,
driven away.
he took the job, right?
Still,
Yeah,
I think that's what prompts Shigur to kill him because he's really angry that even after knowing that he was involved here, he came along and took a chance. So he had to
yeah.
die.
I don't know, without any question. But still, the thing is, he begs for his life in the end. You see, he actually expects him to change his views,
Yeah,
even
he
even
said
at the
you
end.
don't have to do this.
Yeah, but that's pointless, right? If he knows the character and he's
Yeah,
behaving like this, why would you do that? That's why he mocks him. Like, do you have any self-respect? There's a pinch of dialogue where Shiger actually tells him like, "What is the
yeah.
point? You're actually going to die. What's the point?" But
He was just doing it what anyone would do at that moment,
yeah, but he
and
should
he
have known
maintained
better
a
because
better. He
he should have known better.
dealt with the bar better, but yeah, if a normal person would be crying, begging for his life, he's just trying to reason with him.
but he knows that it is pointless, right? If he knows the man, he knows that it is pointless. He already told the same thing to our hero, anti-hero, like Llewellyn Moss, while he was on the bed. He told him, right, like there is no point, you cannot argue with him, you cannot bind with him. But still, the action that he did proves that he does not have that integrity, or
Yeah.
he does not have the guts to die, or you know, he should accept. He should have accepted his situation. That's what I'm telling.
Yeah. And
So let me finish
this
this.
this
Like,
was a very short character. They killed him off pretty quickly.
yeah,
Poor guy.
yeah. He's actually one of those chance encounters.
Yes. Very. I think we come to an end of this movie. We've discussed it. We've discussed the philosophy behind it. I think now would be a good time to call it a day.
But yeah, I think we should say bye to our audience. I think these two might be the only ones who might have a chance of watching
Okay.
this segment. This is too long, right?
Not
Close to
just
1 hour,
not just
more than
yeah.
1 hour. I mean, this is
Okay.
really good because I actually was really enthusiastic about it and I spent the whole week thinking about it. So I actually got a lot of inputs for myself because I had interest in this field.
Whose idea
So
was it? This guy.
yeah, your idea, of course. I say thank you for it, no problem. This is a great
Okay.
exercise.
Yeah. So let's say tata to our audience, and I'll feature him
So,
regularly,
Indian,
and,
let me tell, like, thank you for inviting me
and I'll be featured
into
on
your
his channel
channel.
as well. So please like, share, and subscribe my channel and his channel.
Yeah,
We'll be
so
very happy.
thanks a lot for inviting me to do this, and
Okay.
hope to do a more different subject in the future with you. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
and hopefully people might see this and they might give responses to this comments, of course.
Okay.
This
Oh,
has been a
of
fun
course.
time. This has been fun.
Yeah.